let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaining, fetism, and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're continuing our dinner table talk series. We've got 3 other guests with us, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves one by one.
I'm Shem from Israel, Tel Aviv. You might remember me from the episode of Living in Israel.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Doug. I am from London and I took part in the Game Stream Media episode.
Hi, I'm Pablo and I'm from Mexico City. I've already been here just once in the episode of gaining in Mexico and Latin America.
Oh, love it. And so happy to have all of you boys back. And listeners, this is quite an international episode today because, Shem, of course, is in Israel. We've got Doug and myself in the UK, Tim's in America, Pablo's in Mexico. So it's truly a cross-continental, cross-international, cross-linguistic. I'm crossing my eyes just having to keep track. This is going to be one heck of an episode, so everybody buckle up. Today, everyone, we are going to be talking about the concepts of FOMO and toxicity. And to be clear, FOMO is the fear of missing out, for anyone who hasn't heard that term before. And so those are the real themes we're going to be talking about today, what it means to be in this community, see people engaging, feel like you're missing out, but also when there is engagement and there's toxicity. So that's really what we're here to chat about today. So first things first, FOMO, the fear of missing out. To you guys, I want to ask, how strongly does this impact the community, especially in instances where members of the community live in isolated or sparsely attended areas?
I can say for myself in the bear community in Israel that doing Mr. Bear 2019 I was very in the center of the community, and then after the competition and I started fading back to the background and people were, ignoring or ghosting me a lot. And that really shaking me up, thinking I was a prominent figure in the community and then just being pushed back was very unpleasant. I remember avoiding going to many events and feeling bad that I'm not seeing anyone, but at the same time not wanting to see anyone. It was very conflicting.
I completely understand that because you're from Tel Aviv and it's the capital of Israel, it's where all the buzz will be happening. You immerse yourself in the culture there and there is a lot to surround yourself with. And then when the main event is over and the buzz dies down, you kind of end up seeing yourself as a flash in the pan. Because I was in a similar competition, Mr. Bear UK in London, and the buzz was very much there for the night, and us contestants who took part did meet up quite regularly, and we still do, but it very much feels like once the moment has gone, the moment just it doesn't really exist anymore until the next big thing comes along. Like the hype kind of dies down. It's almost as if sort of being a one-hit wonder. But at the same time, it is great to sort of establish yourself in the community and show what you're about, what you're made of. I think that's kind of what it's more about. But yeah, a lot of people do view it that way, where once it's done, it's done.
I've had similar experiences because at first I was in Mexico, I was like the first one. Like there was nobody from Mexico. It was back in 1997, I think, around that time. There was not one single.
That's 2 years after I was born.
Yeah, I
Me
know.
too.
I'm old. I'm old, but I look quite good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
And well, you can imagine that like there was no one from my country. I didn't know anyone. And then I started like making videos and trying to do so much more stuff so that people would know about it. And I tried to, for example, show my face because I saw all these people that had the chance to do it, because even webcams were strange at that time, right? So it was all really slow and everything. And I can transport it to right now. There's a lot of gainers and feeders in Mexico all around. But I still have like the fear of not being able to engage in events that happen in other countries, like the Grommrs and the cruise. I mean, it's my neighbor country, and I haven't been able to go to the gainer cruise because I don't have a visa, for example. Right now, I have to get it renewed, and it kind of makes me jealous sometimes, but it makes me want to maybe transport all those things and try to make them here. But we'll get there. People are very difficult, and it's what strikes me the most is that it's not toxicity in the gaining community, it's toxicity of the gainers themselves. It's not the community that's messed up, it's the people. That's what I found out. So it's gonna be interesting.
I mean, I love that you mentioned that difficulty to attend events, because I've spoken about this before. Being from Australia originally, a big motivation for me to move to the UK was to have access to gainer events because they didn't really happen back home. And I have heard it every single time. What do you mean? I see that there's Grommr in some Australian city. There are plenty of gainers down under. No, they don't meet up with people, and the Grommr are just people meeting up with their little group of friends that they've managed to gather for themselves. That's not a free space for people to join into. That's like any other friend group, so it's not the same narrative. And the couple of events I've done here in the UK, they can be difficult because trying to organize people's like herding fucking cats. Like, you think it's like, oh, I booked a bar and 2 tables at that bar. You show up and then you sit at that table. And I thought to myself, you can't make this any clearer. But then you've got people who are like, well, this person coming who is 600 pounds, it's like, is this bench seating? If it's single seats, do they have armrests? What are these benches made of? And can they be pulled out? Or are they like screwed into the earth so that they don't move? Like, is there coverage in case there's rain? And if it's in the wintertime, are there oil fin or gaslit heaters for when you have to sit outside? Some people are smokers. Do they have that? And because it's London, is the bathroom upstairs or down, like a rickety single flight of steps that's going to be really difficult for a fat person to navigate? These are actually like real questions that you have to be able to answer. So just a little tete-a-tete here for anyone who's organizing events and you think you'll book some random bar you've never been to. Word to the wise, do a site visit. Don't just Google Maps it and like look at the photos. Take time before the event. Just take a bus, take a car, whatever. Go to the site, check it out for yourself, take photos if you need to, talk to the management and say, hey, me and some friends are going to be here on this date. Like, can we make sure of XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Ask the questions, make sure all that shit's good, right? That's called accessibility. We should all be doing that these days. But to that point, Tim, you are someone who has expressed like you want to try and get stuff happening where you are, and you live in America, right? So like in theory, the rest of the world looks to America like this should be easy as pie for y'all. But what have your experiences been like when it comes to creating that local community?
Well, if it makes you guys feel any better, it's not any easier to attend an event or a Grommr here in the United States. I mean, there are people who hold Grommr on other sides of the country or in the middle of the country or in the South. And if you live in a city like I do, where the airport doesn't have a hub and you have to take all these connecting flights, airfare is going to be much more expensive. Hotel fare has gone up. Like, it's more expensive to stay in hotels than it's ever been before. Like, I don't know. It's because they're trying to recoup from the 2 years of COVID, So like, it's not any easier for me to attend events. I just went to one yesterday. I had to drive 2 hours to get there. I drove in the snow. It wasn't exactly an easy trip. I had a great time, but again, it was very small. There was only 7 of us. It was in a rented Airbnb kind of situation. It wasn't spur of the moment, but it definitely wasn't something that had been planned for a year. I think it had only been planned out for like a couple of months. So while they probably happen more frequently here, I understand the fear of missing out because there's plenty of events that happen that I can't go to, like the Grommr. It's very expensive. The cruise, the reason I could justify the cruise is because I'm going to be on one boat for a week rather than staying in a hotel and having to provide for all of my meals myself. When you're on a boat, bare minimum, you can eat. You might not be able to drink or do any of the excursions, but bare minimum, you can eat if you're on the boat. So that's why I put so much effort into that trip.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate, I've said this before and I'll say it again. When I went on the Grommr of the Seas 2022, I didn't buy the alcohol package. I just had the basic water and soft drinks package. I put on 17 pounds in 11 days because I decided to make the most of it. And I'm not saying that, you're guaranteed to put on as much weight or anything like that, but I'm just saying you don't need to pay for all the bells and whistles for there to be an effect. You can just go and make use of everything that is made available to you. Just putting that out there.
Well, and even if you go to an event and the opportunity for you to put on some weight is not actually available to you, you can still socialize. And that's one of the best parts, is getting to sit down and talk with another gainer and feel that sense of validation. Like what I'm into is not weird. It's not, deviant. It is something that many other people are into, and it's perfectly okay to be into it and to talk about it openly and to share trials, tribulations, experiences, recipes, tips, tricks, everything. That's one of the best parts about getting to meet up.
I want to put it out there to our guests, actually. Obviously we've all expressed a sense here of the missing out, but I want to maybe pinpoint what is the thing that we feel like we are missing out on the most. Is it the gainer experience specifically, or is it community with other gainers? What do you guys think?
I definitely think it's community, because as we as LGBTQ plus people know, at these sort of events and in LGBT venues and events, there can be a lot of people who already know each other. As you guys said, there's already little groups that have already been formed, particularly in smaller areas. And even though I live in London, you can kind of feel that because those groups have already been formed, there's cliques, and therefore they won't be willing to, socialize or share information with you and whatnot. And for the people who are fresher to the community, I feel quite bad for them, because you don't know, one bad experience with them can sort of make them shy away from events like that permanently. And it's not fair, because, they've got passion and they've got no one to socialize with, even though the whole experience is there on paper for them, and they very much can do so, but they just kind of socialize with the wrong crowds of people. And if you miss out on one event, you don't know if these people have already met up with each other and kind of will form the same way, or if you already have friends who have already gone. And I don't know, it's just it's a social thing very much, because community can expand, and that's great, but it can also have detriment if it's the wrong crowd of people, who are just not willing to open themselves up to everybody. You know what I mean?
And I totally understand that, but I kind of think that falls on the host, to there are responsibilities of the host. And the 2 men that hosted the one that I just went to yesterday, they were great. They were very welcoming. They were very interested in conversing with everyone, so I don't know where I'm going with this. I felt like I had a point, and then I lost it halfway through what I was saying.
Well, I mean, what you're expressing is a sense of, there is a responsibility to hosting. It's not just, I know I said, it's just book a table and show up, but it's when I did those events, I still had a job to do. It meant, there were people who would message and put on the event on Grommr, or they would message me if they have my socials and say, hey, look, I'm not familiar with London. I got to the station. I don't quite know where to go. please, can you come in, maybe meet me at this station and then walk back with me? And so I did like 5 trips to try and get people. And I remember this one that I did, the very first one, was like, it was at the Tate Modern, like, oh, we're gonna walk around and see some like chill art because it's like cold and we can be inside and stuff. You don't have to come to that. The pub is in 2 hours' time. So there were people who just came to the pub, but plenty of people wanted to come to the art thing. And because people kept taking late trains and whatnot, I ended up saying to gainer friends, like, do you mind taking this group of like 10 people and just like go with them? And they were like, okay. So, you know, it's delegating, and it's like finding people who are responsible and saying, listen, I need you to like be the big kid today and like lead the children around and like chaperone, just lead the children through the museum. If they want to stop at the candy store, take them to the candy store. They'll be there for hours. They're fine. So, you know, you do have to look after people and shepherd people. And then when we were at the pub, you know, there was someone who came who was very, very large. And despite what I'd been told by the venue people, they hadn't put out appropriate seating. So I then had to go and say to them, listen, you see my friend, you need seats. I need a seat for this person. And they were like, oh, yes, coming right up. Because despite the fact that I had asked for this, until they saw the person who was extremely large, it didn't dawn on them that they just needed to like make do with the request. So sometimes you got to do that as well. And Doug, another tete-a-tete I'll put on here for anyone going to an event. If you've never gone and you don't know anyone and it's an event that's like based on Grommr, start a chat thread on the event post, because you can say, hey, I'm going to be going to this event. I've never been to an event before. Who else is going who has never been? Do you want to meet up at this bar nearby, maybe an hour or two beforehand? We'll have a drink or a coffee. We'll talk and get to know each other a little bit. And then that way, when we go to the event, we have a friend who we can go with, and it's going to be a lot less scary. It's all those little things that you can do that are going to help you feel much more secure, safe, and confident when going to an event. But to circle back to that question on whether or not it's, you know, FOMO about the gaining experience or like community itself, Pablo, Shem, what do you guys think?
I think for me it's kind of both, because I'm gaining by myself. I don't have any gainer friends here in Israel, so it's just that I feel like I'm seeing people gaining tons of weight in no time, and then I'm feeling like, oh damn, I'm so slow. I don't eat enough. I feel bad. And then there's the community side, because again, I don't have any gainer friends here in Israel, and I see people in the US and the UK, and there is a sense of community there, which makes me feel like, oh, I'm living in the wrong place. I should move. But that's another thing that I'm already planning out to do. So I feel very alone in this experience. And it sucks watching people that I talk to online every single day doing incredible things with other gainers, and I'm just stuck here with my own self.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's really difficult because even here, I have many, many friends that I've seen that I've met. Two of them, one of them actually lives like 6 blocks away, but I think another point would be the expectation that one has. For example, the first feeder I met was in here in Mexico City. He was from Canada. He was visiting, and then he went to Guadalajara. And I went there. I wanted to have the experience because here I was really young, and my parents were here around all the time. And I went to Guadalajara. I spent a lot of money. It's like a 10-hour bus ride, and it was so disappointing. Like it really was. Like I had a really good time with him, but he had a boyfriend in Canada. He's on Grommr right now, and he ghosted me afterwards. So also, uh, like being with someone from the community doesn't mean that it's gonna be great and that you're gonna gain 20 pounds in 3 months. And most people, I think, have this kind of expectations. And you put an idea in your head and it goes like even reunions or meetings or whatever sometimes are bad or wrong, or there are groups and cliques, and instead of they trying to embrace you and trying to teach you, or us trying to teach the younger ones that are starting out, that sometimes the younger ones believe they're the stars, and uh, and they start dismissing the older people. That's
Mm.
sad, but it's also true. We all did it. Like when I was 20, I wasn't thinking about going out with a 50-year-old person. Maybe some people do, but I didn't. Right? Right? So, and now I've changed. Like I don't mind talking to anyone, but it's most of the experiences I might say have been a little bit disappointing.
You know, that's such a really important point to come back to. And, you know, I think this was episode, what, 2 or 3 of the podcast, Tim? Fantasy versus reality, where we kind of touched a lot on this. You know, we all have these expectations because people forget the only thing, like, you're a baby person in the community. You join the community, and in order to know what to do, you look around at what everyone's doing to learn how this shit works. And everyone posts about feeders being able to achieve amazing things and gainers who grow rapidly, and we tell the fantasies and the stories and the legends. And then when you don't live up to that, or you haven't experienced that, I think similar to how in the typical gay spaces, people can make you feel less than because you are not white, because your body is not perfect, because you're not the right height or weight or level of masculinity or hairy, etc., etc., etc. And it leaves you feeling very defeated and very, you know, like you don't belong in a space that is actually entirely for you. So I think that's such an important conversation that more of us need to be willing to have, both publicly and one-on-one in private with people, especially new people who come to us. We need to be more willing to separate the fantasy from the fact and just give them the fact and say, listen, if you've never fed before, take it slow. Like, if you're a novice feeder, find an experienced feedee or someone who has been fed before to give you guidance, or someone to another feeder to mentor you. Or, like, if you're a gainer who is, you know, a grazer by nature than a glutton, talk to other grazers about what they do. Don't keep trying to force yourself to, like, be a glutton and gain weight, because bitch, I wasted the first, like, 3-4 years of my gaining journey trying to be a glutton, feeling like a failure that I couldn't. And it wasn't until I just gave that up and got into grazing that I was like, oh, I'm actually gaining weight now. And I'm like, how much bigger would I be if I didn't waste 3 or 4 years trying to be something to please other people that wasn't right for me, you know?
I have a great example for what you were just saying about, you know, teachable moments and experience and all that. So yesterday, I went to this Grommr. I didn't have expectations that it was going to be like a fat orgy or anything, because having been to some of these events now, like, it never really develops into that until, like, you know, people are behind closed doors. Like, in a common space, it doesn't really ever become that. But one of the encouragers that was there had brought a funnel, and I wanted to be funnel fed melted ice cream. And there was another encourager there who was a little bit younger and had never done it before, had no experience with how to feed somebody, and had never seen a funnel being used. So the more experienced encourager was, like, talking him through it, how to, like, help me achieve this. And, you know, like, well, hold it here, you know, give him plenty of time, be sure to be, you know, watching for hand signals or anything else that he does to, like, say, hey, slow down. And it worked out beautifully. And I got half a gallon of melted ice cream down me. So
I love that. Also, another suggestion, if you are being funnel fed for the first time, use your tongue as a stopper to the opening of the funnel, because of course it can't get past your tongue, and because you can control your tongue, you sort of pull it back a little bit to control the flow and pressure of the liquid coming into your mouth until you get a good rhythm, and then, like, you can slowly increase from there. And if you need it to stop, block the funnel, signal to him, you know, he can pull it out and pull the spout up so it doesn't spill everywhere and create a mess. Like, it can be very, very manageable, basically. But
and it was such a good thing. It was such a good experience that I bought a beer pong on Amazon today.
there you go. Yeah. What does RuPaul say? Drag race, bringing families together, bringing calories to Tim's fat ass. Sorry, Pablo.
No, just a little um suggestion also when funnel feeding that has worked for me is that you have to try to not to get it empty so that you don't swallow a lot of air because especially with ice cream because it creates kind of like a bubbly sensation S- and and it can make you kind of throw up a little bit. So so you should if there's a lot of air, you should try not to swallow it.
But again, children listening, good advice from the experienced, the established, the people they know. Let's be listening and taking the lessons. But I want to ask you guys, we've all shared some experiences here. What is like one thing you could suggest that might help to move us past this? Like either a suggestion that the community as a whole could do, or specific individuals could try to be conscious of. What is something for people where it could help us to overcome that sense of FOMO or a little bit of that toxicity in our engagements?
I do kind of think it's important to remember that as time goes by, more people who are younger will get older and they will want to fulfill their fantasies and will want to establish a safe environment amongst people who have already lived through that. For example, only in the last few years have I been properly comfortable about wanting to gain, because I've been surrounded by the right people and I have known of the situation for quite a while, and I have felt quite rough about being in a situation where I couldn't because I was with somebody who was on the opposite end of things where, oh, fat is bad. I am fat and that is bad. Therefore, you can't be either. You have to be doing the same thing as me. And being from a loving family, my parents will gladly allow me to do whatever I want, provided that I'm happy and I have good faith in myself. But the resources weren't there fully because I had no idea exactly which route to take. In the end, it was more about just doing what was right for me because, as you said, James, with being a glutton isn't as easy as it seems on paper because some people get full quicker than others to the point where it just starts being uncomfortable and there's no pleasure to come from it. Even though it's an easier way to gain weight, grazing really, really does work, and it's a similar method that I use myself because I've always been more of a snacker rather than a filler. And don't get me wrong, being the right level of full is perfect. It is beautiful. It's incredible. But when it's uncomfortable and you kind of feel like, I have a stance where if it feels like you're going to be sick, then it's not great. It's not good for your esophagus. It's not good for your brain. But I do kind of feel that back to the situation of just making sure that everyone is aware that there are people who are going to be younger or less experienced, come out of a situation where they have been unable to fulfill a route that they have wanted to, whether they've wanted to gain or even just whether they've wanted to express their sexuality. Either or, they both tie into the fact that you've just got to be mindful that there are people who are going to be new, people who are going to want to know stuff. Not everyone is going to turn out to be extremely full on. Not everyone is going to try and bulldoze anything. And I think it's just being welcoming and being mindful, especially at events where if it's something that's new, something that's started out for the first time, that everything is laid out properly, as you said, having the right equipment, being a safe space for everybody, that everyone could be relaxed, the right seating, the right environment, so people could slip out whenever they want to. Yeah, I think comfort is number one. Comfort is number one above all. Number one rule: just make sure that everyone is more comfortable.
For me, I remember being a young teenager, finding gainer stuff on YouTube and, wanting to be like that. And I remember reaching out to some people and some were nice, but the majority were like douchebags.
Mhm.
They they were like, "You're just a teenager. What do you want?" Like it was just like, "I want to gain weight," and they were just like, "Nah." or they just told me like some stupid shit, like trying to throw me off. Like now, as I grow older, I'm 27, and I'm meeting people in the real world and on Instagram, and it's very much different, I think. I remember last year when I first sent a message to James, and it was very real and very comforting, and instantly it was a click. And then when I came to London last September and we met up, and it just like magic. I don't know. And and ever since, I feel like every time I need to express something that no one else can understand about gaining, I can turn to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what vanished the feeling of FOMO for me in a lot of sense. Because I don't have to experience stuff alone anymore, and I don't have to watch from the sidelines alone. And it was very reassuring and very affirming for me. So yeah, I think if it means to travel to meet someone you really care about and you really want to meet face to face and you know break the boundaries of the internet, I think you should. Don't go bankrupt, but I think you should.
This is what
Because it
I this is what I wanted to say in a simpler way, and you've just simplified that really well. Be the resource to other people that you wish you had when you were in a situation where you wanted one but there wasn't.
Mhm.
Because we can really change people's insides that way. And we can really make people feel welcome to be themselves that way.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Like I think my best experiences were when I was traveling at first. Then I met more people from Mexico. And uh, the sad thing was that for example, I wrote to a very, very famous gainer who had gained lots of weight. I wrote him an email because there weren't the messenger things and everything. And he already was so famous that he didn't write me back. He had like this pre-made sheet of paper telling me what to do, but I wanted to like start talking. He was like, there's so many people asking me so many questions that I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna just gonna send him a recent email that I wrote once. Like we're not trying to connect really, trying to help. You're just had it and let's send this email that I already have. So it was kind of sad because I looked up to this guy for so many years, and now I think he now has stopped gaining. He's thin and he lost like 300 pounds. So it's kind of disappointing, but if I respect that, like if he wants to get fit because of whatever reason, they should do it. Like
Mm.
it's perfectly fine. The thing that bothered me was that he dismissed me, right?
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
And that sounds like the big thing that we could all be aware of is not to be so dismissive of the people who reach out. And Shem, thank you for your kind words before. And I want to speak to that here for a moment because obviously when we chat and when you were coming over, I didn't have it in my brain to be like, I want to make sure that like Shem wants to be the best of friends and feels a I just thought this is someone who obviously we talk, we get on well. I want to do my part as the person who lives here locally to best support you. And, you might say, hey, I'm free this evening. Where do you want to go get dinner? Or I want to see some local sites. Where do the locals go? Or like share a moment with me. And that's easy. That's easy for me to be like, I'll make time in my evening. I will show up. We will do the thing. And I think, we met up a couple of times. I think it was really lovely. And, we had a bit of a moment on a bridge that I thought was really quite wonderful and shared quite a personable time there. And, a little bit like you were saying, Doug, be the person that you wish you had. I mean, Tim, fuck it, mentorship. We're back to it. We always, that's the theme of season 2. We're not shutting the fuck up about mentorship because, baby, we all need to be mentors. This is something that we are seeing in the queer community at large, courtesy of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. We lost a generation of queer men and women and non-binary folk who would have otherwise coached and encouraged us, especially in this time with what's happening in America legislatively, what's happening around the world for queer people. Like, we are feeling the effects of not having had the mentorship and support that we should have had, right? So therefore, this is a lesson. We can't continue to not have that. We need to pull the finger out of our ass and just be there for people. When we see the young person struggling, like, don't wait for them to like come and flounder over to you. Be the lifeguard. Throw them a line. Pull them ashore and just take care of them. Are you okay? Do you need something? Like, for goodness sake, there are so many people on Instagram or through different social media who, if they're not having a good day, my question to them is, what can I do to lift you up today? Do you need me? Like, I am here to listen or distract, whatever you need. But it's not about I will provide you a specific thing. It's let me be there for you, period. No contingency. No, I'll only be there for you if X, Y, Z. Like, no. If you need it, let me be there. Let me help you. Because mentorship is parenting without the fact that I birthed you. Which means you just have to be prepared to be like a regular parent, which is the person that you might be having that relationship with, might be going through a difficult time, and you might think, oh, I can see obviously what you should have done. Bitch, they don't necessarily know that. That's why they're coming to you. Be the mentor and like hold them and pat their head and tell them it'll be okay. Give them a donut to nom on while they cry so it can soak up the tears. Like, let them calm and breathe and be peaceful in your presence. And then be like, let me guide you through this and let me support you through this. Like, this is what I'm hearing. You know, Pablo, someone was dismissive of you. Guys, don't be dismissive. Like, you don't know who's on the other end of that. Be kind and give grace. Like, world is hard right now. Don't be dicks. Who's got the energy to be a dick? Be nice.
I just think that at the end of the day, this person who's chatting to you could have been in the same shoes that you were one day. And even if someone treated you like that, it's no reason to treat them the same way because all you'll do is hurt them.
I did want to say one more thing about FOMO, and it's a specific type of FOMO. If your fear of missing out comes from the fact that you are in a relationship where your partner may not understand your fetish, may disapprove of it and may think that it's weird or that it's gross or that he doesn't want you meeting up with other gainers to talk about it because that would be weird. That would be just too much for him to handle. Really sit down and talk to your partner and say, hey, look, this is something that brings me joy. This is woven into my sexual DNA. This is not something that I can just turn off. It's always been there and it's always going to be there. And if you love me, you will allow me to go off and experience this with, I mean, it doesn't have to lead to sex. We're not talking about sex. We're just talking about meeting up with other people who are like-minded, who will encourage you, who will support you, who will make you feel seen and heard. And if your partner is completely unyielding on this thing, chances are that this is not the only thing that they are unyielding on. And you may be dealing with the type of personality who is just trying to control you. So
baby,
put that into perspective.
Baby, listen, life is fucking short. And I'm sorry. There's a million fish in the sea. If your partner is that stick in the mud about like who you are authentically, goodbye. Cut, get rid.
I completely agree.
And I'm not saying like, oh, they're a piece of shit human being. Like maybe they're not comfortable with it. Maybe they have their reasons. Totally get that. But also, you owe it to yourself to live in your authenticity, period. It is just like coming out as gay. Don't date a girl because you are afraid of what other people are going to say about you. And we all go through that journey. We got to respect people who are on that journey, who have to take their time to come out. But be aware, your life is not going to change until you make different changes. And if that's what it hinges on, you just have to take the plunge and do it. Same thing with gaming. There are plenty of people I've spoken to, especially in recent months, who are like, hot footing. Do I or do I not? Do I or do I not? Baby, just do it. Commit to £10 and leave it at that. If it's really not for you, you don't have to do it again. You can lose weight, bitch. Make up a whole story on Facebook. Like, I tried a new medication. It wasn't working out for me. I've got my life back together. People will love you for 10 seconds because you managed to lose some weight. That's the society we live in. But what if you like this? Better yet, what if you fucking love this? And it flips a switch in your brain that gives you a euphoria that you have never felt like before. It could change the game. It could be the first time you truly feel alive to take such control of your life. So, consider that. Oh! Kids, good conversations tonight, good conversations. Now, focusing a little bit more on the toxicity side of stuff here, because of course this is always such a hot button issue. People always talk about who's doing it, where it's coming from, blah, 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 blah. I want to ask, like, is there like specific ways in which the gaining and feedist communities are susceptible to toxicity? Obviously, there's the ways in which, like, you know, cliques and the usual stuff that like every community would go through, right? But is there something specific to gaining and feedism that we need to consider with toxicity? Or with FOMO, just if that happens to come to mind?
I'd like to point out first, if I can, the specific form of toxicity that I have the biggest problem with, and it kind of boggles my mind that the guys who do this don't think that it's actually a toxic trait, is negging. Negging does not work for me. It has never worked for me. Telling me that I'm not big enough, I'm not fat enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, has never, ever been a motivating factor in getting me to do anything. Ask my mother. Negging me has never worked, and it never will. The best kind of inspiration that I get is when I am like, it's, if you don't feel like complimenting me, then don't. But like, if you can find a compliment in there, just giving that to me helps so much. It bolsters my self-esteem. It bolsters my confidence. It makes me want to keep going. So please, dear God, stop negging people, because unless you're into humiliation, that ask someone, are you into being humiliated? If they say yes, neg away. If they say no, don't do it.
I completely agree with you there, Tim, because people will often be like, oh, you've had a one day where you've not eaten as much, or where you've not gone about how you've stuffed yourself, or maybe you're not feeling like eating. Oh, you're not serious about this then. Like, are you really a gainer? Oh, are you da da da? And it's just like, come on now. It's just one day where I'm not really feeling up to, like, people get stressed, people get anxious, and people deal with it in different ways. Me, when I'm feeling particularly stressed, my appetite shrinks. My appetite shrinks, and I immediately feel full just off of bad energy. And I kind of think, oh, well, I'm not really, like, what if I, feel my weight dropping because of this or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's kind of just like, what doesn't happen can be repaired. And words that come out of other people's mouths really shouldn't matter like that, especially if it comes from feeders who don't know what that's like.
I remember, there's like Telegram group of like kinks and shit, and I remember saying that I'm a gainer, and an English guy actually living in London, who came here to work or something. I don't know, he kind of lives here. And I told him that I'd love to meet up and I want him to feed me and stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then he's just like, oh, can you send me a video of you eating or, stuff like that? And yeah, sure, I can. But if I don't, it means that I need to make up for it, and in another picture, another video, and just like, I want this. Believe me, I do. But don't make me take videos or pictures just as like what's the word for it?
It sounds kind of like he was auditioning you, almost as if he was saying, prove your
Yeah.
worth
Yeah.
to me and then I'll pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
God.
like, if you don't do that, then you're not serious enough, or you're not worth my time. And just like, dude, we're into the same shit. You want to feed me, I want you to feed me. Just fucking do it. Why do I need to film videos? And why? Plus, you don't send me anything back. You don't send me any pictures. You don't send me any recordings. Just encouragement. It's just like very one-sided, and that's something that I come across a lot in the community, and especially feeders in quotation marks, that was just like, oh, I'm gonna ask you to do lots of things for me, but I'm not gonna give you anything in return.
a lot of people will pass this off on being a dom and being sort of like, oh, well, you have to do this stuff for me because you get off on it. Clearly, you'll be nothing without this energy. I am this sort of guiding light. You will follow my instructions because then you will have my approval. Then you will have my validation. And I know you'll be nothing without that. And I feel like people really, really get off that energy. And it's just horrible to see because it borders on it really, really does tread the waters of, are you treading the lines of comfort? Are you crossing the line of consent? Like, there's some times where some things just aren't okay, and some things are beyond the level of comfort in the moment, and these people have to accept that there's a time for it, and the time isn't always.
Yeah, it's really, oh yeah, the nagging is terrible. And also that part, we talked about it when we did the episode, that most feeders are not real feeders because they don't have to go through what a gainer has to go through. They're not changing anything. So they can be married, have kids,
Yeah,
and then go one day with you. They will maybe feed you, and then they will never show up.
and then they fuck
And
off.
that doesn't work for a gainer because we need to be regular and constant and making a huge effort to gain weight. And that's really strange. I went out with a feeder who wouldn't touch me because he was afraid that people would see him with a kind of bigger guy because I'm not huge. Like he was, I was like, touch it, like play with it. We're having fun, right? And he was like, no, because my really good friend lives down the street. And what if she sees me? Like, I'm
But like, baby, if she sees you, then she sees you having fun. And if you are that worried about like your friend seeing you, why the fuck did you agree to meet me 2 steps away from her house? But also, how dare you treat me like a dirty secret? Like
Mhm.
this is something I come up against with gaining all the time. This is why I try to be so public about it, because I'm like, the fact that we love to keep it hidden is why people fetishize the secretiveness of it. That's why nothing ever changes, nothing ever fucking moves forward, because people are sat here as if we should be kept silent and secret and off to the side. How many gainers tell horror stories of feeders who come round and they have a good time, and then the feeder like jumps out the back window? Or like the feeder invites them over, my friends are coming home early, you need to leave now because I don't want to see someone like you in this house. I don't, if they're going to see me, walk of shame someone out of this house, he better be fit and hot, but not you because you're fat. You're not good enough. You are not what the world wants to see. Oh,
See, this is where my smart mouth wouldn't be able to contain itself because, like Pablo, if someone had told me that, I'd have been like, well, who's your neighbor? Gladys Kravitz? Is she looking out her window with a pair of binoculars? Like, what is she gonna, if she can see what we're doing, then she's looking with a telescope and the bitch is being nosy. So give her something to look at.
oh, girl, if that bitch had walked into the store, I would have gone up to her, invited her to come sit with us. You want to sit with us? You want to come and sit? Hello? He's going to feed, your friend is into, he wants to feed me and make me fatter. Did you know that? Because he was ashamed to tell you, so I thought I'd just break the ice and let you know what he's into. I'm not playing with people no more. I'm not. Back of my hand, you gonna catch it if you try to fuck with me. I'm not doing this no more. I'm not doing this, children. Like, ugh. On the negging thing, and I want to make this very, very clear, right? The difference between negging and humiliation kink is this. Humiliation kink is, oh, look at you, you fucking fat fuck. Oh my god, you've gotten so big. You look ridiculous. The way that shirt is so tight across your belly. You put on so much weight, you're about to ready to split the seat in your pants, you fat fucking piece of shit. That's hot because what you're actually saying in the subtext is you're really fat. It's twisted and put on its head as humiliation because it relies on the societal expectation of you are supposed to be thin, but you have gotten fat, and you like that. That's why it turns you on. Negging by saying you're not fat enough, there's nothing to that. There is only, you're not good enough for me, you're not trying hard enough, you're not worth it, you're not good. Completely different things, and we need to delineate those right fucking now. Negging is not humiliation. Never the two shall meet. Don't neg. It's fucking bullshit. And on the point, any leaders out there listening who think they have the right or authority to have expectations of gainers, you need to prove yourself to me. Bitch, you are a skinny person in a fat man's club. You are not the person with the power or the privilege or the authority here. Take several seats, even though you can't fill out one, and understand the fact that I don't need to prove shit to you. I am the gainer. My gains and photos and progression are proof that I am legitimate. I don't have to prove myself to you, Miss Thing. You better come up in here with your credentials. Who have you fed? Who has got a nice word to say about you? Or do people actually have to say about you that you flake and that you're no good at doing the feeding situation, that you nearly choke people out because you don't know how to read body language? What do people actually have to say about you? I am not the one who needs to prove shit. It is you.
Yeah. That was like Shangela telling me, first I don't have a sugar daddy.
I actually felt an earthquake from that mic drop.
Oh my goodness, I don't have a feeder. I've never had a feeder, and if I wanted a feeder, yes, I could probably go out and get one, because I am what? Thickening.
Sickening!
Never have a feeder, because you are not that kind of gainer, baby. Every pound that I have, I gained myself. You fucking bitch!
Oh my god.
Thank you, Tim. We're adding that to the list of famous gay scenes we're going to have a production company.
It wasn't already on the
Amazing.
list.
Believe it or not, no.
That's in the top 5 easily.
Oh my
god! Like so many untalked moments come under that. Oh my god.
Well, okay. I want to take a second here to ask all of y'all, what is something each of you have had to do to learn to process and improve upon your own FOMO and toxicity?
Ooh.
I mean, for me, I'm a lazy guy in general, even when it comes to gaining. I don't know why. I'm just like, I'm feeling a little snackish, but I'm in bed and I'm gaming. Just like, I don't have the energy to get up and snack. Just like, and I always feel guilty because I'm stuck at my own weight for a while, and I beat myself up about it. But I have to accept that's just who I am, and I'm gonna gain the way that I'm comfortable with, and not like put myself. I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I love
don't.
everything that you just said, because what you're just demonstrating there is not being toxic to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like, you have to get over the toxicity that you have for yourself, for like your own gaining journey, for the fact that it's not happening at the same pace that someone else's is, or your body's not going to end up shaped like someone else's. Because I look at other gainers and boy, do I get jealous, man, because it just seems like they blow up overnight. All their dreams come true. They get to their body weight that they want. They get the shape they want. And I'm like, well, what's my excuse? And it's like, I just have to be okay with the way that my journey is unfolding. That's not easy to do. But, you know, we're so self-critical that we have to dial that back if we're going to really enjoy this.
Yeah, I do have a gainer friend here in Israel. We're not that close though. He's almost 150 kilograms, even more, I think. And I said with him a few months ago, and he told me, "You gained 50 kilograms. That's another person, basically." And I was just like, "True, but I'm not where I want to be." And just like, doesn't matter. You gained 50 kilograms. That's a lot. You almost doubled your body weight. And just like, you know what? Yeah, it did. It took a while, but I got there, and I'm still not where I want to be. But slowly but surely, I hope I get there one day. And I shouldn't be so hard on myself. When I'm lazy, even today, I almost skipped breakfast, and then I made some, and then I told myself, I should make a gainer shake with the powder and stuff. I didn't do it, and I felt bad about it. I'm just like, you know what? If I didn't feel like it, I didn't feel like it. That's it.
I think that's a really important point. Like, don't be toxic to yourself. There's a word in English for that, right?
Don't be toxic to yourself. Like, don't be self-judgmental, self-deprecating,
Self-loathing.
self-hate.
Yeah.
Oh,
What you
You
do?
okay?
I need the table. I was
Oh no!
I was trying to change my trousers, everyone, and I just did myself. Ow. Okay, quick tete-a-tete. When you put on weight, you don't have quite the movement and dexterity that you thought you had. You might start bumping into things. So just take it easy.
No shit, Sherlock.
I'm looking at in the episode. Sorry, Pablo, you were saying something.
No, it was that short thing that you shouldn't be toxic to yourself, because we can all be toxic, in a way. Sometimes I can be a little bit too toxic because of um, I feel like I'm missing out. That's my reason. Like I had an incident a few days ago, actually, and I apologized because I was the one being toxic. Right? Like I knew that I was exaggerating things and making them bigger than they really were. But the thing was that I was being dismissed again, like gaslighted. Like they made everyone think that I was the one being crazy, right? You know that. So that's not specific to the gaming community, but they were all gainers. So so it gets to you because you try to behave to try to fit in, like a clique, like in high school.
Yeah. I actually really love that you said that because that's something that I think honestly, as adults, I don't think we talk about enough is when we ourselves are a problem. Like when we say something that we shouldn't do, or, it's like we know better. But sometimes we are the ones who perpetrate doing something unkind or inappropriate. And sometimes it's the fact that we misunderstood a signal, or we were forgetful about something, or sometimes you just make a mistake. But I think the adult thing there is kind of like you said, it's not about leaving it, it's about kind of owning the fact, like, I did that, I need to do the right thing to show, like, that I understand that it was wrong, and to make the amends, and to repair that relationship. Because sometimes a small transgression like that, we don't necessarily see it as being like a massive thing, but it can be the thing that like chips away at something, so it's a good thing for everyone to be aware of. Doug, what are your thoughts?
I really have to echo what Shem said, because I feel like you will wake up and not feel the same as you did the day before. You will not, your appetite won't be there. You'll have stuff come up during the day and you won't be as hungry, and you won't want to eat. You won't really want to get anything down you. But there is always that voice in the back of your head that says, what if this gets in the way of my journey? What if this is detrimental to moving forward and making progress? And I think it's really important to, bottom line, just not beat yourself up. There is going to be days where you don't fancy doing something in general. And I find that experience in life is just all about making yourself comfortable. And just knowing that tomorrow could be a very different day. You'll make up for it the next day. Or if you don't, that's fine. Like, the chances are things will get better throughout the week. Things will get better throughout the month. It's all about what is right in the moment. And being your own worst critic is no fun. It really, really isn't. And I say this as someone who has struggled for that, like with that throughout the whole 28 years of being alive. Because you will often find yourself thinking you could do more, you could do more, you could do more, you should be doing more. But it really just ends up driving you crazy. At the end of the day, prioritize your comfort, prioritize your mental space, put yourself in the best place possible. That's what I'd say, because if you don't, then you're no better than the people who criticize you. And it's the sad truth, because you want to make sure that you're getting to the best place possible. But in order to get yourself to the best place possible, it's your head first. Your head has to be before anything else.
100%. Tim, what about you, babe?
Oh crap.
You got the question?
What was the last thing that was said? Yeah.
So the question was...
Sorry.
That's okay. At your age of life, I mean, we should be thankful that you're still with us, honestly.
I know, right? Like I told you, I've got that glut over from last night.
No
So,
excuse.
so Tim.
Your skin is beautiful. I wouldn't have thought you were 64.
What? Wow, Nini.
How dare you? I'm 72.
Oh God, how old does that make me then? Sorry, Tim.
Yes.
The question was, what is something that you do to help overcome FOMO and toxicity in yourself?
For the FOMO thing, I know that like I can't make it to every single event, right? Like it's just not possible. I work a full-time job. I've got a house, mortgage, pet, boyfriend, all that stuff. Like it's just not possible for me to make every single one. But some of the ones that I can make it to that are close by, like if it means a 2 or 3 hour drive, you know what? Sacrifice it. Sacrifice the gas money. Make the drive. Make the connections with people. Like just from being in an event last night, I'm reinvigorated again. Being around other gainers does wonders for me. You know, I want to push again. I want to keep gaining because I'm around other people that are doing it. Like when you're doing it solo constantly, I understand it's very easy to give up hope. It's just like, well, no one's enjoying this anyway, and all I ever get is stuff online, and I'm never going to see anyone in person. But you just, if you can make it to an event, even if it does mean a little bit of travel, make that travel, right? And then as far as dealing with toxicity, again, like I said, deal with it in yourself first. Like lead by example.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, everyone. This has been an incredible hour. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us here today. Everyone, where can listeners find you online?
It's Shem. You can find me on Instagram as Shem Falach. It's like Falah, or on Twitter and OnlyFans as shembear.
You can find me, Doug, on Instagram at stilldjd.
And you can find me, sorry, on Instagram as pablogainer altogether, and on Grommr as Pablo_gainer, and also on Tumblr, the same one.
Awesome. Well, that's a wrap for now here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. If you liked this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and beefyfrat at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and beefyfrat at thiccymouse. You can also look us up on TikTok at Thicc Radio or at our website at www.podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to submit a voice note, you can reach us at anchor.fm/Thicc Radio/message. And if you have any questions or ideas for episodes, you can reach us at thethickradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye,
Bye,
Fats.
Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Shem and Thicky Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stannon.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.